All right, let's talk about Blizzard. Jason Schreier tweeting yesterday. Take a look at this. Jason Schreier tweeting yesterday, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing has filed an explosive lawsuit against Activision Blizzard for discrimination. Some of the details in the complaint are horrifying. Let's take a look at some of these that Jason has specifically excerpted out. Defendants have also fostered a pervasive frat boy workplace culture that continues to thrive. In the office, women are subjected to cube crawls, in which male employees drink copious amounts of alcohol as they crawl their way through various cubicles in the office and often engage in inappropriate behavior towards female employees. Wow. That's pretty gross. That's excessively gross. I don't know, I can't think of an office Yeah, exactly. I can't think of an office that I have ever worked in my life. And I've worked in radio stations where there has been some pretty fucking permissive behavior. And I can't even think of a context in which that would be even remotely appropriate. I worked with, I worked with a handful of old school radio people at, at this radio station. I'm going to try to be very vague here because I don't really want to expose anyone. But I worked at a radio station where there was a very heavy split between men and women. And it was because, normally that's pretty abnormal, right? Now, I've never been responsible for hiring practices within the radio industry, so this is an observation and not necessarily an accusation because I don't know. But most of the radio stations that I have worked in have been mostly male radio stations, whether it's in the production department, on-air department, or any of the back offices. A lot of the women were really kind of relegated to things like promotions, sales, things like that, and it was pretty fucked up. So we had a heavier than normal male-female split because we had a all-female promotions team that was the point of it was to get guys to listen to the station. So they were all very physically attractive. They were all very physically fit. They were promo models, essentially. And I will never ever forget, I was going through a really bad breakup at the time. And I was working two jobs. And, I worked my day job at one radio station where I was doing a lot of production work. And then I would go and very quickly drive across town to another radio station where I would board up. And when I would board up, I'm usually relieving the show that is before me. And I'll never forget, I was talking to one of the hosts of that show, and I was just talking about how I was really bummed out about my breakup. And he's like, well, why don't you date one of the promo chicks? I'm like, you make that sound so easy, Yeah, two jobs, right? Yeah. You make that sound so easy, and all of this shit. And he's like, man, they're promo chicks, man. They're just trying to sniff out someone on the on-air team to just try to crawl their way up the ladder. And I'm like, ugh, I could never look at that guy the same ever again. It was one of the most disgusting things that I had ever kind of been, and it exposed his attitude about women. And this was a guy who was married and his wife had a kid on the way, and it just totally you know, like I didn't look up to the guy, but he was the co-host of a show of a guy that I did look up to. In fact, like one of my broadcasting heroes. And it was just like, oh, so this is the type of guy that, you know, this company chooses to put on the air. This is the face that we want to present to people. And it was gross. It was really fucking gross. And I'll never forget that. And it sort of catalyzed a lot of my opinions about, you know, dating in the workplace and things like that. And it was sort of like in that moment, I kind of made up my own mind, like, I'm never going to date somebody I work with. I had some previous experience dating somebody that I worked with, slightly different context, because I had already been in a 5-year-long relationship with this woman, and I helped her get a job at the same place I was working. Very different context. Also, our relationship stayed stable throughout the duration of our employment there. So, you know, it wasn't really an issue. But, you know, after this, I was like, dude, I'll never, you know, date somebody that I'm missing with. The Missing Frame, thank you very much for the follow. Very much appreciate it. Let's take another look at one of these excerpts from Jason. I don't know why. It's Jason Schreier's specific name, and it's probably that SCH right at the beginning of his last name, but it's always Jason Schreier's name that I always mushmouth the Jason. In another example, a female employee who worked at Blizzard Entertainment was assigned a lower level, denied equal pay, and passed over for a promotion despite multiple factors that suggested she earned it. 1, highly rated performance reviews. 2, she generated significantly more revenue in her marketing campaigns than her male counterpart. That's egregious. That's egregious, because now you're not even making decisions that are fucking good for business. That's insane. Like, that's actually crazy. She ran almost twice as many campaigns as her male counterpart. Despite her accomplishments, her male counterpart was invited to have monthly or weekly one-on-one meetings with the vice president. She was not afforded these same opportunities and unsurprisingly was passed over for a promotion in favor of her male counterpart. Sad truth about this is, I mean, you know, the reality of every employment situation is it's not what you know, it's who you know and how you can grease those wheels. I am not very good at playing kiss ass, so I tend to not be very good at that role. Unless I really, you know, hit it off with someone, I tend to, you know, speak when spoken to at a job, and, you know, I can be opinionated when that opinionated is asked for and warranted. But I'm more likely to, you know, just sort of like sit back and sort of wait for the next thing to happen. But by the way, that's not a defense of this behavior or of what the suit is alleging specifically. That does seem very egregious, especially when, you know, she ran double the amount of campaigns as her male counterpart and, you know, generated significantly more revenue. That's pretty objective. That's an objective measuring stick right there. So, you know, I'd love to hear Blizzard's excuse for this. Love to. Similarly, other female employees at Blizzard Entertainment were assigned to lower-level roles, denied equal pay, and further delayed or passed over for promotions in favor of male counterparts who lacked the same experience or qualifications, but who were friends with the male head of the unit. A newly promoted male supervisor delegated his responsibility to his now female subordinates in favor of playing Call of Duty. Other male supervisors would refuse to communicate with female employees, going to their male counterparts for information. I have read through quite a bit of this suit, by the way. And I mean, while there is no shortage of damning stuff, and we'll get to the most damning thing here, item number 48. In a tragic example of the harassment that the defendants allowed to fester in their offices, a female employee committed suicide while on a company trip due to a sexual relationship that she had been having with her male supervisor. The male supervisor was found by police to have brought a butt plug and lubricant on the business trip. Jesus Christ. Another employee confirmed that the deceased female employee may have been suffering from other sexual harassment at work prior to her death. Specifically, at a holiday party before her death, male coworkers were alleged to be passing around a picture of the deceased's vagina. Wow. I mean, that is graphic, but I think it's important to hear. I believe it's important to hear spoken aloud. That's the true consequence of behavior like this. I mean, where's the defense? Because Blizzard has tried to defend themselves. We'll get to what Blizzard said here in a second. But what is the defense of this behavior? What supervisor can see this going on and doesn't try to do something about it? I don't understand. And the reason that I really have trouble understanding this is because this is not a problem that is unique to Blizzard in any way, shape, or form. Guess what? All your faves are problematic. All your favorite game designers are fucking problematic. There's some fucking weirdness or brain worms in their fucking head that, you know, and it's just, we're just gonna keep finding this out. Don't have heroes. Do not have heroes. It's really disgusting. There's no defense for this. The only defense that I have seen offered up is that a lot of these people have been fired or are no longer with the company. That's not good enough. And thank God that the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing is going to try to do something about this. You know, I just keep wondering when the parade of horrors is going to actually stop. You know, when do we get a brief respite? You know, is Bobby Kotick going to come out and answer these tough questions about why he allowed a culture, a completely toxic culture of misogyny to form at his company? I mean, he's been at the helm for how long? The one thing I will say about the suit that doesn't quite sit right with me, because again, I read a lot of it. The only part that doesn't sit right with me is how many times the suit alleges that male counterparts or employees were playing video games instead of working. I have to imagine that playing video games does serve some sort of purpose when you work in the video game industry. It makes me wonder, of those allegations, though, how many of those instances were completely egregious and had absolutely nothing to do with work, which is totally fair. That's a totally fair accusation. But it's the one part in reading this where it's like it doesn't quite translate, because you're like, yeah, well, of course they're supposed to be playing video games. They work at a video game company. let's talk about Blizzard's response. Jason Schreier tweeting, an Activision Blizzard spokesman sent me a lengthy statement calling allegations distorted and in many cases false, and referring to the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing as unaccountable state bureaucrats. So cool. We've got video game companies that are now having to ink their own propaganda. Insane. The DFEH includes distorted and in many cases false descriptions of Blizzard's past. We have been extremely cooperative with the DFEH throughout their investigation, including providing them with extensive data and ample documentation, but they refused to inform us what issues they perceived. They were required by law to adequately investigate and to have good faith discussions with us to better understand and resolve any claims or concerns before going to litigation, but they failed to do so. Instead, they rushed to file an inaccurate complaint, as we will demonstrate in court. We are sickened by the reprehensible conduct of the DFEH to drag into the complaint the tragic suicide of an employee whose passing has no bearing whatsoever on this case and with no regard for her grieving family. While we find this behavior to be disgraceful and unprofessional, it is unfortunately an example of how they have conducted themselves throughout the course of their investigation. It is this type of irresponsible behavior from unaccountable state bureaucrats that are driving many of the state's best businesses out of California. Literally, Republican talking points. Literally, Republican talking points. Deflect. Unaccountable state bureaucrats. That's why businesses are leaving California. Ending it with a fucking threat. These guys are essentially going, oh, such a nice California economy you got here. Shames if something would happen to it. These fucking mafia thugs think that they can PR their way out of this little situation. And you know the sad fucking part is that they probably will. Statement goes on to say the picture of the DFEH paints is not the Blizzard workplace of today. Over the past several years and continuing since the initial investigation started, we've made significant changes to address the company culture and reflect more diversity within our leadership teams. We've updated our code of conduct to emphasize a strict non-retaliation focus, amplified internal programs and channels for employees to report violations, including the Ask List with a confidential integrity hotline, and introduced an employee retaliations team dedicated to investigating employee concerns. We have strengthened our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in combined our employee networks at a global level to provide additional support. Employees must also undergo regular anti-harassment training and have done so for many years. That's your statement from Blizzard. Now, I said that they would likely be able to PR this away. And the reason that I say that is because didn't we do this about a year ago? Maybe a little bit more than a year ago with fucking Riot? And still, Riot continues to have a very successful business model. I haven't seen a whole lot of people boycotting League of Legends or not watching Worlds because, you know, they were really pissed about the way that Riot treats its female employees. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me where I'm wrong. Show me where the investigation into Riot's, conduct toward its female employees has hurt their bottom line. Please show me that correlation because I haven't seen it yet. So the truth is that Blizzard knows what Riot knows, which is the same thing that countless others have been able to figure out. There's going to be a lot of noise made about this, but you know what? Empty cans tend to rattle loudly. And when it comes to Overwatch 2 coming out, you'll sit and shell out your fucking wallet and buy it and all the DLC and support all of the sketchy business practices that come along with it, Loot Box 2.0, whatever the fuck. Like, when... Like, at what point do you just go, this is too fucking much? And the fact of the matter is that this is a pervasive problem across the industry as a whole. There are not a whole lot of places that don't have this kind of problem. That's the sad reality. When I said all your faves are problematic, that's what I meant. Is that this shit happens on a way more regular basis than either you or I are comfortable with. So what are we going to do? What the fuck are we going to do about it? Sorry, I got my dad texting me. But that's the real question. You know, I appreciate all of the sentiment that I see right now. Oh, I'm going to boycott Blizzard. Oh, I'm going to boycott Activision. All right. Are you going to do that when the next Call of Duty turns out to be pretty good? Are you going to do that when 6 of your friends buy Overwatch 2? When we talk about things like boycotts and we talk about things like sending a message, I've seen that happen for No Man's Sky. I've seen it happen for Fallout 76. Neither of those were because of shitty business practices. That was just lying about your product. And it ended up not being the game that everyone wanted it to be. But this is real, tangible injustice. This is real. This killed a woman. Do I need to go over that again? This killed a woman, and the dude who was, in some way, I can't say the dude who was with her supervisor, brought lubricant and a butt plug and shared pictures of her vagina. Where's your line? Where's your line? I've hit mine. That's a small symbolic message, but I never spent a whole lot of money with Blizzard to begin with. So I don't have an answer here, guys. If you're looking for me to put a bow on this and tell you what to do, or give you a number to call to funnel your outrage at, I don't fucking have it. I don't have an answer. I mean, what seems what's acceptable for you? You know, is it Bobby Kotick has to go? Is it every supervisor has to go? Like, what is it? Like, what at what like? I don't know. The whole thing is fucked up. I'm for sure never buying another Blizzard game. I'm never promoting another Blizzard game. Oh, there's a lot that we collectively can do. Stop buying their shit. Do not patronize them. Do not play their shit. I mean, the boycotts for as much as I deride them are literally kind of the only thing that we as consumers can do. We can sit here and spaz out on social media all we want, but again, I point to fucking Riot. If you want to know why I'm cynical, it's because of Riot. Because Riot went through almost the exact same accusations, and they did an internal investigation. Literally, nobody got fired, and nobody talks about it anymore. I do have to have something there. Hang on. I just realized how sort of blank over here is, and it's really difficult to see the chat. So hang on. There we go. It at least fills the space. Kaze Ka saying, I believe in walking with your dollars to boycott these companies to a certain extent. But in doing that, don't we also hurt those in the industry that are being hurt by the industry? Those women that are being harassed will also be hurt financially. That is, I mean, first of all, boycotting one company may do something to the culture at that company. But as we've identified, this is a problem that exists much wider than any one single company. This is an entire industry-wide problem. Does it hurt the women who inevitably will end up working at Blizzard? Yes, because it hurts Blizzard. I mean, ultimately, if the business doesn't do as well, they will lay off employees. That is only logical. I don't know. I happen to think that the only, I mean, because and you have another really good point in there, Kaze, and that is that the ones who will feel the effects first, the ones who will be let go first, are going to be those on the bottom rung, which this lawsuit has gone very far out of its way to allege that that's what they were doing specifically to their female employees. So by that definition, absolutely, the first ones that will end up being hit by a boycott are going to be your female employees, because that's the culture that has been established by Activision Blizzard. However, I don't think that means that it's okay to just reward them with your patronage. To me, listen, I can only speak as me. I'm not trying to encourage anyone else to engage in a boycott or anything like that. I can only speak for myself. But to feel okay about my consumerism, I have to feel like I spend my money ethically, okay? And that means that if I see something that I don't agree with, I tend to stop supporting that brand until there are major changes that have been made. There are brands that have won me back through the way that they have been able to change their culture effectively at their business. That's not to say that the allegations have stopped. that's not the only evidence that you look for in something like that, because, you know, a business can just get better about silencing the criticism, right? So you have to actually look for real hallmarks that the culture has changed, and that can be very difficult to suss out, especially if you have no insider information with the company. So, you know, like I said, I never spent a whole lot of money with Blizzard to begin with. So a boycott for me is very easy. That's the other thing. I'm not going to sit here and get on my high horse and be like, you all should be boycotting Blizzard. It's easy for me to boycott Blizzard. I don't play their shit. So it doesn't really affect my life an iota. My question to you who are out there as Blizzard fans: are you going to be able to comfortably spend your money now with this company? Is it going to be in the back of your head every time you want to make a microtransaction, every time you want to buy a new skin, every time you want to, you know, get the latest expansion? Because I think it probably should. Okay? That's my opinion. I think it should weigh on your head whether or not you feel good about the way that you're spending your money. That's my opinion. Silver lining is they get laid off and find a better company, or a worse company, or a more toxic and predatory company. You know, there's that distinct possibility as well. Morgan Freeman saying, am I wrong on thinking most online gamers are misogynistic, homophobic, racists, so they'll never boycott anyway? No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It does seem to be the overarching archetype that you meet every time you get into a public game or a lobby. I can't see Blizzard losing anything, to be honest. Gaming industry is always running through talent, and there will always be people who will endure shitty work conditions to pursue their dream job. Yes, that is a very true observation. I work in one of those industries. It's called media. You know, we see the same thing in esports. You know, I covered esports for 3 years. As a part of Checkpoint XP, and you see a lot of people willing to make sacrifices to do what they think is necessary for them to succeed at their dream job. And the unfortunate side effect is that you feel, because so many people who have existed inside the industry before you reinforce this opinion. They reinforce this idea that you've got to pay your dues and you've got to do some of the shittiest work imaginable in order to pay your dues. And the truth of it is, not really. Like, you as a worker, you as an individual should not be forced to do work that you don't like, that you don't agree with. That is not a part of your job description. So, you know, the ability for the individual worker's ability to push back on the system that they're employed by, there's actually far more resources than people think to address working situations inside of a toxic work environment, especially inside of a large company or a large corporation, and double especially if they're publicly traded. Blizzard has lost a lot of talent because of this over the last couple of years. Yeah, but I mean, you kind of got to wonder how long this kind of culture has pervaded there. I would love to hear from some female employees that were there before the Activision acquisition, because I'm wondering how much that changed the work environment. Because that will change a work environment far more drastically than I think people recognize. The Missing Frame saying, plus a majority of the fan base of most of these games are kids who don't care about these issues. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, that I think that's why I advocate for you know, being a better consumer and being a better consumer around your kids and for your kids. We're no longer in a dichotomy. We're no longer in this sort of dynamic where kids are the only ones who inherently understand the content when they ask to buy a game from you know, to ask their parents to buy a game. So I think, you know, we as gamer parents now have a very sort of important role to play, especially if we feel very strongly about this issue, that, you know, we're going to have to not only explain this very difficult situation to our children, but also tell them no. Which can be, for some parents, a very difficult thing to do. And I sympathize with that. But, again, if this is something that you feel really, really important about, then you're not going to buy Overwatch 2 for your kids either. And maybe, I don't know, maybe, you know, there was this incredible network of parents that would talk. You know, they would network and they would talk to one another about the content of some of these violent video games. That's how, you know, Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto kind of got some of the early reputation that they did. So maybe it's just a good idea to inform other parents about what their money is going to support. Because I think even in the abstract, even if you don't really understand the nuances of something like this, if you came to a fellow parent and said, hey, you know, I know your kid likes World of Warcraft a lot, but I think you should understand where your money is going, I think that there would be a lot more parents out there who would be receptive to something like that. Their kids would fucking hate it, but I think that there would be more parents out there receptive to that than you think. On top of bad press like this doesn't help their status as a premier gaming company. There's what, 2 or 3 ex-Blizzard companies now? Yeah, there's more than that. There's like way more than that. Like this has been a trend. Like you know, ex-Blizzard studios go back a long way. You know, like ex-Diablo talent came together to make Hellgate London, and it's a pile of dog shit. So you know, pretty common. Maybe not so much Overwatch, but definitely Call of Duty is making them the most money. I mean, yeah. Kaze saying, yeah, that makes sense. I definitely wouldn't want to throw my money at these companies to support them. Just bringing to light that side of it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not supporting Blizzard in any way. No. I'm not saying that you were. There is a very valid counterpoint out there to be like, well, so many people aren't going to do it. Why should I do it? And I think like this is a really important sort of teaching moment and a learning moment. So allow yourself to learn. You can be the change that you want to see in the world. I know that that's a fucking platitude, but it's also fucking true. You have a lot more influence and power than you realize. And if you start talking about this like it's the most important thing, that this is something that needs to change absolutely right now, and that you're willing to put your money where your mouth is, the more people you tell about that, the more effect it's going to end up having. So, you know, I think it's really easy to get sort of... sorry, my nose itches for some weird reason. I know it's really easy to sort of get caught up on like, oh, well, there's so many millions of other people that aren't me that could make a different decision. And you're right, they could. But you're the only one that controls your actions. You're the only one that controls your own decisions. So, if at the end of the day you decide, I'm not going to support Blizzard, be consistent with it. Be consistent with it and stick to it. And I hope that you have the resolve to stick to it, especially when 6 of your other friends are looking at you like, hey, dude, why aren't you playing the new Call of Duty? Come on, bro. That can be a really awkward conversation. Especially if they, oh, dude, that was so long ago. Oh, dude, come on. You really think that matters? What, you think you buying one game is really going to matter? Yeah, I do. You might too. And if you do, then I think you know the proper course of action. But if you're sitting on the fence, if you're in the chat right now and you're sitting on the fence, I want to, in a non-confrontational way, ask you why. I would like to understand why. So feel free to speak up. I'm not going to yell at you. I've done enough yelling today. But I'd like to understand a little bit more about why you think that the way you spend your money ultimately doesn't matter. Got to think how many people left to avoid being called out on this? Dude, seriously. Like Jeff and all the others who left in that last couple of years, were they just covering their own asses? I think you have to wonder. It definitely makes you wonder, especially if you know that the state is looking to come down on you. I mean, I have to wonder, has Blizzard known that this is coming for a while? Because, yeah, that would explain a lot of the exodus of top-tier talent and, upper management people that we saw over the last 2 years. Morgan Freeman saying, say what you will, 80s moms were no joke. They changed American culture. Yeah, they fucking did. There was one asshole from Bloomfield Hills, which is where I grew up. I went to fucking Bloomfield Hills public schools. There was one asshole from Bloomfield Hills that decided she didn't like Married with Children and nearly got that shit taken off the air. It was a whole fucking campaign. So, where are the highly motivated moms that are like, hey, I think this Blizzard situation is really fucked up, and I think we should talk about it? Why aren't they in a letter writing campaign to the fucking ESRB? I don't know if the ESRB has any ability to, I don't think they have any jurisdiction here, but shouldn't we hear about shit like that? Where's the fucking activism? Oh yeah, Red Bean and Wildstar? Not sure what you were referring to. D&D, music, games, movies, there was no page 13 until the 80s. Robbie Bobby, oh Lord, don't get me started on her. Who's her? Dark Flux saying, I've been on the fence. This sent me over to the other side. Uninstalled BNet, unsweeted, and will resolve to purchase no further products. Very good, Dark Flux. I admire you. I applaud you. I think that's a good solution for you. Watching The Bachelor? What? That show is a classic, and with good reason. Al Bundy is the quintessential American anti-hero. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I see. Her. Yeah. She lived in my fucking hometown. Kids from the high school used to go and egg her house. It was like a yearly tradition. Aqua, let's see. Aqua no Kisuke. Aqua no Kisuke? Is that right? Am I close? Am I somewhere close? I'm sorry. It's the first time that I think I've said your name out loud. You have to think about it like this. Your vote matters. Your $60 matters. Same principle. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I understand that it's really easy. Close. Okay, cool. I understand that it's really easy to sort of get caught up in the thinking that my vote doesn't matter or my $60 doesn't matter, but it really does. At the end of the day, it really does. We saw the margins of the most recent election. Voting fucking matters. And I think you would be surprised how thin the margin is to take a game from successful to unsuccessful. At this point, they're spending so much fucking money on the development of these goddamn things. That's why they're having to look towards, $30 worth of aftermarket purchases after you already purchased the initial game to try to make back some of their development fucking costs. Now, let's not even get to the fact that at least 40% of that pie, if not more, is made up of marketing costs. But that's the God's honest truth, that the budgets have bloated for some of these games to such a degree that, like 100,000 less people buying the product, that company is gonna fucking feel it. The margins are particularly thin right now, and they're particularly thin around the price of the boxed fucking copy. So that means if you don't even take part in the initial box copy purchase, and then you hold back, then you devoid them of all your subsequent microtransaction purchases, you will deny them a significant portion of your money. And if there are enough of you that are pissed and that believe that the treatment of your female employees are wrong, like the treatment like this of female employees is wrong, then enough of you coming to that same fucking conclusion, not even having to organize, will end up making a dent in their bottom fucking line. I guarantee you. I promise you. God, I don't know why my nose is itching so much. I know I've let my beard grow out a little bit, and my mustache, like I trimmed up my mustache a little bit, but I think that there's a rogue hair that's like going up and tickling my nose. All right. Final thoughts about the Blizzard situation. This is horrible. It is unconscionable for Blizzard to do what they did to their female employees for as long as they did. I want to know how long this goes back. I want to know. I want to hear from people who worked at Blizzard. I want to hear firsthand about some of this shit. Morgan Freeman saying ESRB can make a new rating. PSP, possible sexual predator. That's good. Let's see. Aqua no Kiseki. Aqua no Kiseki. I think I got it now. So, but I'm just going to call you Aqua, if that's all right. Aqua saying, yeah, I've sworn off ActiBliz and Nintendo. One for obvious and Nintendo for their shitty anti-consumer practices. I agree. I'm right there with you. I haven't sworn. I've not sworn off Nintendo. I do own a Switch, but every time I hear about them suing another, project that's bringing Super Mario to Unreal Engine, or they're suing to take down the Internet Protocol that still runs Brawl. It makes me go, why am I spending my money with this fucking company? I'll tell you what, though, man, I can't wait for that fucking Steam Deck. You want to talk about like anti-consumer practices, bro? Like the fact, I'm totally fine. Saying that I receive absolutely no money from Valve. I am just an enthusiastic consumer, but like the Steam Deck, like. Dude, that's like the reverse of what everything Nintendo does. Nintendo locks down all of their hardware. Steam Deck is like, nah, fuck it. You want to install Windows? Install Windows. You can do it. Who gives a shit? I love that attitude. I gotta say, I am a big fan of that kind of attitude. Willie Zoot saying, hey everyone, let's all go to Activision and take a big group shit on their floor. Absolutely. What's going on, Two Cats? Echo Revelations. I want a Stream Deck. I couldn't get one. Now I got to wait like a year probably. I was able to get my reservation and I'm so excited for them. But Steam and hardware. Sign me up for that. Yeah. Steam Deck looks unreal for sure. Sold my Switch and games recently for half what they are worth. Good for you. Good for you. Two Cats saying fucking disgusting the whole Blizzard thing. Absolutely. Hey, Morgan Freeman gifting a tier 1 sub to Willie Zoot. Thank you so much, Morgan Freeman. Really appreciate that. All right. Yeah, final thoughts on Blizzard. I will not be buying anything from Blizzard or Activision for a very long time. I encourage everyone out there to keep up on the story and to keep looking for follow-through. The fact that they've taken a defensive position against the state is it's not surprising, but it's really I don't think it's going to work out for them. I don't think it's going to work out very well. So expect some changes to that company in the near future. But also, pay very close attention of who's leaving. The people, I believe that the people who are most guilty in this situation probably have already left. But there's going to be more people who are going to be there as the sacrificial lambs. I don't know who that's going to be, but it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out. Mark Kern has removed all reference to them from his bio. That says it all. There you go. That does say a lot right there. All right. Thank you guys for participating in that mature discussion. I really do appreciate that. I think we got some really good discussion points out there. Jeff Kaplan jumping off the Blizz train, making it out with a safe image might have been smart. Maybe. I'll just go back to sort of... God damn, dude. I swear to God, something is... Yeah, it was a nose hair. I'm getting old, guys. I'll reiterate what I said at... Was Mark Kearns a Gamergator? I have no idea. That's a very valid question, though. Any case, that in Overwatch 2 looks like a joke. He was he? Oh my God. Makes you wonder. Really makes you wonder. Tweets deleted, so maybe something's changed. I mean, I would imagine that anyone who was a Gamergator at one point has realized what they unleashed onto the world and might feel pretty bad if they're an actual human being. It's almost been a decade since Gamergate. Jesus Christ. All right. God, that fact alone is insane. It's been a decade since the normalization of some of the shittiest behavior that I've ever seen on the internet or in person. And still, no one was ever held accountable for it. And in fact, it's now been integrated into part of the normal American discourse. Like, just think about that. Like, the tactics used in Gamergate are now just normal American politics. Jesus Christ. Getting old equals nose hair getting a buff, lower back and memory getting a debuff. Have some more 20 years since the FF10 release? I did know that. I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, being a senator means that you're the best at shitposting. Yeah, that is true. That is devastatingly accurate. All right.